Hi, folks. Let's talk about the circus we're currently living in, where up is down, men are women, and apparently shouting dumb things on late-night TV qualifies you for a standing ovation. We're in a moment where the party that once claimed to be holding truth to power is now just angry power with zero truth. And leading the parade this week, Congresswoman Jasmine Crockett, who decided to take a break from legislating to do her best TikTok commentator meets conspiracy theorist impression on Jimmy Kimmel, unloading on Elon Musk like he's the reason her party's poll numbers are in free fall. I guess when you can't fix the economy, the next best thing is to punch at the guy literally building rockets and exposing all the graft and corruption that your party has been up to with Doge. So buckle up, because today we're diving into the progressive meltdown Olympics, where the gold medal goes to whoever can say the dumbest thing with the most confidence.
We really don't know how much damage they're causing. Like, when I tell you that the level of incompetence is almost like incomprehensible, it is so bad. And when you bring up the idiot known as Elon Musk, he is not only like very sinister and has no idea what he's doing, and people are like, oh no, he absolutely knows because he's the richest man in the world. Like, yes, he knows how to hire smart people, but don't conflate that and believe that he is the genius, because he ain't. And so he has inflicted so much harm and done so much that even Trump don't want to talk about it. When the last time you heard about Elon?
Not much. You don't see him that much.
No, we ain't been hearing about him.
You think Trump is distancing himself from Elon Musk?
Because as soon as people started to look at his ratings, right, like he continues to have these failing ratings. So now they're like, oh, get rid of Elon. But let me tell you, the stench ain't getting off of you, Trump, honey. Like, you are a problem. He is a problem. Pete is a problem. All of y'all a problem. So, yeah.
Let's take a moment to appreciate the irony of Jasmine Crockett, a congresswoman with no notable contributions to society to speak of, aside from cashing a taxpayer-funded paycheck, claiming that the man who builds rockets, popularized the electric vehicle, and made satellite internet affordable is somehow the incompetent one. She sits on Jimmy Kimmel's couch, America's favorite stage for Democrat mouthpieces, launching into a bitter partisan rant laced with jealousy toward Elon Musk, a man who, whether you like him or not, has founded world-changing companies, created tens of thousands of jobs, and has revitalized the American space program. Meanwhile, Crockett's greatest launch to date was a soundbite. So tell us again how Elon is the idiot in this situation. Now, she leans on a lot of appeals to emotions, saying Republicans are causing so much harm, there's incomprehensible incompetence, and the stench won't come off Trump. No specifics, no data, just vibes. This is what you do when you have absolutely no policy wins, no legislative accomplishments to speak of, or even a halfway coherent critique. You throw adjectives at the wall and hope your applause sign keeps the crowd going. Now, the line about Trump not even wanting to talk about Elon isn't just wrong, it's deliberately misleading. There's no reports of falling out, no silent rebuke. It's simple. Elon isn't the target. There's no strategic reason for Trump to be bringing him up constantly. And considering how Democrats have allowed, even encouraged, their base to protest and vandalize Musk's businesses, from vandalizing the Teslas of private citizens to firebombing dealerships, it's entirely rational for allies to take a step back and avoid drawing even more fire. This isn't distance. It's tactical prudence. But Crockett needs to manufacture drama to keep her narrative alive, because without the contrived wedge, her whole tirade flatlines. And speaking of harm, what exactly is Musk being blamed for here? Free speech? Breaking up Twitter's censorship cartel? Running wildly successful companies? Or maybe, and this is one they really can't stand, it's his leadership of DOGE, the Department of Government Efficiency. DOGE has been a wrecking ball to the bureaucratic bloat Democrats rely on to funnel money, build patronage machines, and hide incompetence behind layers of unaccountable alphabet agencies. It's exposed billions in waste, gutted useless programs, and dragged the administrative state into the daylight where it can't hide behind field-goal slogans and DEI buzzwords. That's why they hate it. Not because it's failing, but because it's working. And if there's one thing that terrifies people like Jasmine Crockett, it's the idea of a government that actually has to spend its paycheck wisely. Anyway, the projection happening here is absolutely elite. Crockett accuses Musk of incompetence while her party can't even keep a city clean, an economy stable, or a border secure. I mean, just look at California, greatest example for Democrat leadership. The same people crying about misinformation just spent years telling us inflation was transitory, man can have babies, and riots were mostly peaceful, as if we couldn't see them for what they were. This entire clip is a masterclass in performative outrage, low information rage packaged for late night applause, built on shallow slander and zero substance. Jasmine Crockett is doing what Democrats do best, deflecting from their failures by vilifying anyone who dares disrupt their echo chamber. Musk disrupted it. Trump is disrupting it. And for that, they must be demonized loudly, poorly, and obviously on Jimmy Kimmel. Because when your track record is as empty as Jasmine's is, all you're left with is noise. Speaking of Democrat noise, Michelle Obama has a message for you.
We grew up with women who weren't voicing the pain and the burden. They made it look easy. And when you make stuff look easy, people assume that you must like this.
Yeah.
It's okay with you, right?
Right.
You know, we don't articulate as Black women our pain because it's almost like nobody ever gave us permission to do that.
And does anyone care?
Yeah, there's that.
Will they care?
There's
If we
part.
knew, I think we would care. If we knew. If we knew.
Or, you know, yeah, and we have to ask ourselves, the men in our lives is, you know, why wait to be asked? You know, it seems like what we go through is pretty obvious. I mean, maybe we're not complaining, but we're actually living life out loud. You know?
The irony of Michelle Obama saying she doesn't articulate her pain while articulating her pain on a globally broadcast podcast hosted by her, promoted by her, and centered entirely around her is truly next level. And let's be honest, she's not waiting to be asked. She's telling us, lecturing us, and monologuing for hours with all the subtlety of a sledgehammer. When you have a multi-million-dollar platform, a Netflix deal, and glowing media coverage every time you blink, the idea that you're not allowed to express yourself is truly laughable. You're doing it loudly, constantly, professionally. It's truly beautiful to witness the manufactured victimhood embedded in the phrase, we don't articulate our pain because no one gave us permission. No one gave you permission? Who exactly are you waiting for? Congress? The media? Because from where the rest of us are sitting, Black women have been the most overrepresented voice in every cultural conversation for the last decade, from Hollywood award shows to DEI training sessions to school curricula. This narrative has been anything but silenced. If anything, it's been industrialized. She also leans on the assumption fallacy that because pain wasn't expressed in a particular way, it wasn't present, acknowledged, or felt. They made it look easy, she says, of women in her family, implying that emotional restraint or resilience is somehow a betrayal of truth. No, maybe that's just dignity. Maybe it's just strength. Not every hardship has to be turned into a performance piece for Spotify. And let's not skip over the implicit guilt baiting happening here, asking if the men in our lives care while clearly suggesting that they don't. This is the rhetorical equivalent of, if you cared, you'd know, an emotionally manipulative move designed to shift responsibility without evidence. It preemptively silences anyone who might ask, well, what exactly are we being accused of here? And that's the whole point. It's not about clarity or conversation. It's all about control, weaponize ambiguity, cast suspicion, and dare anyone to challenge it without being labeled part of the problem. But the most revealing part of all is when she says, maybe we're not complaining. We're just living life out loud. That's the thesis right here. Complaining is being reframed as authenticity. Broadcasting personal frustrations and grievances is repackaged as bravery. But when everything becomes trauma theater, when every conversation is centered around who hurts more and who's allowed to talk about it, you don't get progress. You get narcissism with a social justice filter. So let's be absolutely clear here. Michelle Obama is not voiceless. She is not powerless. She is not waiting for permission. She's a cultural juggernaut using institutional power and mass media to tell us how unheard she is while never being quiet for a moment. If that isn't peak elite gaslighting, I don't know what is. All that being said, when it comes to empty platitudes, Democrats have proven over the last few years that they have a monopoly on it, and there's no clearer case than this 2-minute video of Mayor Pete on Andrew Schultz, which has been going viral and has been getting a lot of praise from a lot of the progressive left as the vision for America. Let's see what he has to say.
I want everyday life to be better.
That's what they want too.
You get up in the morning, yeah, but importantly, like all the controversies are over what that's like. Like I want you to be able to get up in the morning and the first thing you do is you commute to work, and by the way, if you're on an EV, I want that to be affordable for you. Or if you're on public transit, not to get back into the subway situation, but I want you to have good public transit to get to where you're going. And then when you get to that job, I want you to be paid well. And if you're about to have a kid, I want you to know that you're going to have parental leave when you have that kid. And if you don't want to have a kid, I want you to have the right to choose whether to have a kid, which means access to birth control and abortion and those things that give you the freedom to decide on that. And if you already have a kid, when you pick them up at school, I want that school to be good, not having its funding slashed while they set fire to the Department of Education. And then when you get home, I want you to be in a neighborhood that is safe and where you can breathe the air because we didn't let them get rid of the Clean Air Act. And you don't have to think for one moment about whether the air you breathe or the water you drink is clean and clear, which actually takes a lot because it means the government has to constrain those actors that would make you unfree by polluting the air and polluting the water. And then when you go to bed, I want you to know that your family's going to be fine, even if it's family like mine, despite there being some Supreme Court justice who wants to obliterate your family because it doesn't match his interpretation of his religion. Like, that's the life I want everybody to be able to live.
Yeah, I think
we can deliver that.
And today's award for empty platitudes and saying absolutely nothing goes to Pete Buttigieg. What we just witnessed is the political equivalent of a Hallmark card. Vague optimism, flowery promises, and a heavy dose of emotional manipulation dressed up as policy vision. He wants you to get up, go to work, have a kid, or not have a kid, and somehow that sequence alone is supposed to make you think he's offering anything of substance. But let's not miss the sleight of hand here. Buttigieg frames his speech as some great inclusive blueprint for America, when in reality, it's just the same tired progressive wish list sprinkled with buzzwords like freedom and safety. He even rambles on about clean air and EVs before dropping the real purpose of this performance: weaponized victimhood. He says some Supreme Court justice wants to obliterate your family because it doesn't match his interpretation of his religion. That's not just dishonest, it's straight up despicable. Needless to say, it's a blatant straw man. No justice on the Supreme Court has ever said they want to obliterate anyone's family. That's not legal language, that's fear bait. It's Pete projecting an invented boogeyman to scare people into supporting his agenda. Instead of engaging with actual court decisions or legal reasoning, he conjures a religious extremist on the bench who apparently is just itching to nuke non-traditional households. It's cartoonish, it's inflammatory, and it's designed to shut down any real debate by framing dissent as bigotry. Now, what's truly ironic here is how Buttigieg pretends to be worried about religious overreach while completely ignoring that it's his side, the left, that has been using government power to force religious Americans to violate their conscience in everything from healthcare to hiring to speech. These are the same people who dragged the Little Sisters of the Poor through a years-long legal battle because they refused to provide contraception under Obamacare mandates. The same activists who cheered when Jack Phillips, a Christian baker, was hauled into court multiple times for declining to create custom cakes that conflicted with his faith. The same crowd that tried to shut down Catholic adoption agencies in places like Massachusetts and Philadelphia because they wouldn't place children with same-sex couples, despite those agencies serving communities for decades. The same progressive institutions that want to strip accreditation from Christian colleges that uphold biblical marriage. But sure, Pete, tell us again who's under siege. Tell us who's really threatening freedom. And his environmental virtue signaling is also peak. He says, I want you to breathe clean air, as if the opposing side is pro-smog. An obvious and lazy false dichotomy. You either support expansive regulatory overreach or you don't care if children are breathing in coal ash. It's lazy rhetoric meant to paint every skeptic of climate bureaucracy as an enemy of clean air and water. No mention of the economic destruction that comes with endless regulation. No recognition that poor communities suffer most when energy prices skyrocket or when transit projects get hijacked by inefficiency and corruption. Something Buttigieg should know a little about, considering the state of the supply chain and infrastructure under his leadership. And then there's the ultimate bait and switch, using personal identity as a political shield. When he says he wants your family to be fine, even if it's like mine, he's not making a policy point. He's immunizing himself from criticism. It's a rhetorical trick. Wrap yourself in your identity, then accuse anyone who disagrees with you of threatening your existence. That's not an argument. It's emotional blackmail. It's not about equal rights. It's purely about dominance. The entire speech is a masterclass in passive-aggressive demagoguery. Every phrase is calculated to sound caring while subtly vilifying anyone outside the progressive consensus. It's not about improving your life. It's about asserting moral superiority. Pete isn't offering vision. He's offering vibes. And if this is what passes for leadership in 2025, Democrats are in more trouble than we thought. So ask yourself, when did leadership become performance? And when did questioning it become heresy? We're being sold polished scripts in place of truth, identity in place of ideas, and grievance in place of governance. And the more theatrics they give us, the more silence they demand in return. But who benefits from a public that stops asking questions? Who gains when disagreement is smeared as hate and debate is replaced with emotional manipulation? This isn't just about Pete Buttigieg or Michelle Obama. It's about a political class that thrives on perception while fleeing accountability. The next time they hand you a neatly packaged story, ask what they left out and why they're so afraid of you noticing it. You tell me what you think in the comments down below. Have a terrific day. Peace.